This is the Female Founder Show with host and entrepreneur Bridget Fitzpatrick, exclusively on ASBN.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Female Founder Show, where you'll hear inspiring stories and advice from female entrepreneurs to help you build and grow your business. This show is designed to inspire and motivate other female founders to be the best they can be. Today's guest is a tech entrepreneur here in Atlanta. She's a female founder who is passionate about supporting her community, empowering other women, and the app she has developed happens to do both of those things. Please welcome Tamara Lucas, CEO and founder of My Panda app. Tamara, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah. Now you have an interesting background it's completely different from what you're doing now. So can you talk to us a little bit about that and then how you moved into My Panda app and the development?
Yeah. So I've done a gazillion things, but I have my master's in social work, and I particularly worked with children and troubled teens. I was working in group homes and doing counseling with kids and their families. And then I got an opportunity to go live in Italy for a little while. And when I came back from Italy, I was like, I don't know if I want to go back into teaching. So I stumbled into an Italian food and wine distribution job, which was like perfect. And then as I started to get into that field, I was like, this is really fantastic. So that's where I spent a bulk of my career, really close to about 20 years. And so, sales and management and portfolio management and whatnot. And so that's what I was busy doing. I was representing actually at the time several Virginia wineries. My family, in the midst of my career selling wine, decided to plant a small vineyard in the mountains of Virginia, nice. Which was crazy because I thought that was the stupidest idea ever.
From Virginia, they have great wines there.
They really do, and nobody really
right.
knows.
Mm-hmm.
But because there's just so many small little family wineries. But they went ahead and did that, and so I left the corporate sales position and was working with my family winery and representing several other wineries, trying to get them distribution and sales and exposure in the Southeast. Was busy doing that, raising my two kids, single mom, and as I'm sure you can imagine, and many of your viewers can imagine, like there were always dishes in the sink, and the laundry was always in the washing machine for too long, and then I have to wash it again because the kids are about to. So I was like living that kind of life. And a friend of mine who was working as a dog walker, we were having lunch one day, and she was like, "Wow, these people need so much more than just a dog walk. If they would just throw me $20 when I walked in their house, I would so pick up that kitchen for them." And I was like, oh my gosh, I need someone to clean up my kitchen for $20.
Yeah, right.
So I started to just think that there's so many people just like me in our communities, and people like my friend who are just driving by our houses every day who could just pop in and help us with all of the things we have on our plate. So I went ahead and was like, well, let's try this. And I had the idea of just doing it in my neighborhood, which is in Decatur, the Oakhurst neighborhood in Decatur. And as I started to mention it to people, every single person I mentioned it to was like, when can you come to Philadelphia? When can you come to Miami? Can you get to Virginia? So I was like, this is something I need to really kind of look into doing. So that's how it was born.
Yes. So now app development's so different, like your background you just mentioned. Now, when you were telling your friends and family that this is what you were going to do, I know when we started our company, there's like, you're crazy, especially ASBN. They said, you stick to what you're doing. CBT is great. You don't need to do it. It's crazy. Did you get it? What kind of feedback did you get from your family and friends?
So it was mixed because a lot of people were really excited. They're like, oh my God, that's a great idea, right? So many people, particularly women that I talked to, were like, this is a fantastic idea. So it was kind of like a little bit of excitement for that, but then also like, you have no idea what you're doing, which I didn't. I mean, when I had the idea of like, well, I mean, it's an app. Like, how much could an app be? Maybe $5,000? Like, I had no idea. And so, so they were a little bit like, what are you even doing? I was like, well, let me just try it. So we started with like an MVP, a minimum viable product, just did a beta test in my neighborhood. I found an app development firm in Decatur. Like I wanted to be so hyper local. That's a big, huge part of what our business model is about, is being really hyper local. And I started meeting with the app developers, and like I had no idea. They're like, okay, well, let's go ahead and just draw out a wireframe. And I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Like I have no idea. Like I barely even use apps. And so, but I just really sort of gave into the fact that I didn't know much of anything. And then I think my friends and family, as I started to see, like I was just learning from a lot of different places. And I still was doing my other work and stuff too. So it wasn't like I just threw everything to the wayside. I really was testing it to make sure it was something that was viable.
Yeah, it's a testament to the passion that you had for your idea, not knowing anything about it. I know we kind of went through the same thing, not knowing anything about it. I didn't know anything about broadcasting, but here we are 10 years later. So true testament to the passion and how strongly you felt about your idea.
Yeah,
right?
how important it is and how it could help so many people.
Right.
And that really goes back to, with my psychology and social work background, like helping people, that's really what I do,
So there's a lot of women watching right now that are thinking about starting a business. So what advice would you give them?
Do it, right? Make sure you have a safety net of some sort. Like don't completely just throw everything to the wind. But you got to take a little bit of a risk in order to make anything worthwhile. And also recognize the things that you don't know and find resources and support from everywhere. And there's, particularly in the startup community, particularly here in Atlanta in the tech community, I can't even believe how many people are here to help, like willingly, just reach out randomly to see if I need anything. Like it's astounding.
Yeah, and you take advantage of a lot of the great programs in Atlanta that are offered, the ATDC and the Emory Business School. Can you talk to us about how they've helped you?
Yep, I call it the ATDC program, kind of like the gateway drug into the startup tech world. So they've got an amazing education program. It's really inexpensive, and you just get some really solid basics. And so you go in on your own time, or it might still be virtual at this point. I don't know, but it really is great. It really carries you through. And I learned so much, and I also met some key people there. So that was really great. And then I got into the Emory Goizueta has the Start Me program, and that is designed for small business owners in kind of underserved parts of the city, right? So they've got something in Clarkson, Southside, and then Eastlake. So I live right near the Eastlake area. And that was also very similar to ATDC, but more of like solid foundational business aspect.
Yeah.
And they still are amazing. Like I'm constantly getting emails from them with different resources they have for us as alum, and it's great.
That's fantastic. And some congrats are in order for you. You've been chosen as one of the Atlanta Tech Stars, which is sponsored by Cox Enterprises, right?
That's right. Yep.
Congratulations. Can you talk to us about how that has helped your business?
Yeah. I get to be on the 9th floor of Pond City Market, which is
nice.
awesome.
So nice, yeah.
It's really exciting to go from, dining room table, COVID, just like dogs running everywhere. And, and to be up like overlooking the city in this really innovative place with 9 other companies that are all we're all going through the same thing, right? Yeah. So it's like this really supportive, excited, like just full of energy. Tim Dorr is the managing director, and this is his first program. He's doing an amazing job, and he, is just having the resources there, and then the entire rest of the resources of the Techstars world. Yeah. That's a huge, huge support, because there's people all around the world that are in this program. Yeah. But the biggest thing has been the mentor component of the programming. We went through 2 weeks of, they call it Mentor Madness, where we met with about 90 mentors in like 15-minute like speed dating, which was crazy. And then we have mentors are selected. We kind of ranked them and picked the people we really wanted to work with, and then they said who they wanted to work with. And so I have 5 mentors and right before this, I was meeting with one of my mentors, and we're coming up, and they are just like experts in all the areas that I need help.
I think that's great. There are so many resources, and you've taken advantage of a lot of them. And I think a lot of female founders don't realize that. Right. They don't know what's out there, or they think, I can't do that. It'll be too expensive. So thanks for sharing that information. And you recently did a contest. You pitched some. Yeah.
So at Atlanta Tech Village, which is down in Buckhead, they've got I think it's called the Startup Village Battle. And so every 2 months they have a group of businesses that pitch against each other, and then they all go to a final pitch. And then the winner of that final pitch of pitching their business gets a year of free office space at ATV and free parking, which is on top of everything.
Yeah, especially in Buckhead.
So I won that. And then like 2 weeks later, I found out I got in Techstars. So I was like, oh my gosh, I went from this dining room table to having two of the coolest offices in the city.
Yeah,
So,
and talk about a catapult for your business too, having those resources available to you and then free rent.
yeah,
parking
and really it's I mean the space is great, but it's the people and the community that are in these places. And it's just, you just walk in, you're having coffee next to some investors and other founders, and it's just such a great community. And there's more and more female founders in this ecosystem. I mean, even when I started doing the classes at ATDC, beginning in like 2019, it was a lot more guys were around, even just a few years ago. And now, like, it's just, I have so many groups of women-based, the city of Atlanta has a women's entrepreneurship initiative program, which is amazing. Monica Hooks runs that program. It's amazing what she's done with that program. And we were in that, like, as we went into COVID, and then it was this like really intense period that 15 women founders, we all went through it together, and we navigated, and we've grown our business, and like we're all doing amazing things now. And that's been a really, really great resource I continually go back to.
Wonderful. Now you're surrounded by a lot of entrepreneurs, small business owners. What characteristics do you think it takes to start a business?
You have to just take a chance, right? People that are really just want safety and security and consistency, like, it would be too uncomfortable. And so, and you have to really have a drive to want to make a difference, and you see a problem that needs to be solved, right? Like, I can't imagine just doing this just to like try to make money. Like, this isn't just to make money, right? This is a problem that is a serious problem that needs to be solved. And I think that my solution can solve it, right? So it's being creative to kind of see problems and then come up with solutions. But then it's also really the perseverance of sticking to it. Like, you've got to stick to it. And that's really, really hard. And sometimes you can't, the resources, which is a big issue that female and underrepresented founders have, is getting funding, and money, resources are necessary to build a business. Thankfully, my parents were able to help me a lot, which I'm so grateful I have that resource, right? So many people don't have that. And so the sticking to it and just continuing to be comfortable with failing and know that failing is not a statement on your sense of worth, that, that's just another problem to solve.
Yeah, a lesson. Yeah, mistakes are often a lesson. So, Now you have two beautiful boys.
Yes.
And balancing the mom life, entrepreneur life. Can you talk to us about how you manage that?
It's a lot. Well, you use pandas.
I was going to say, there's help out there.
There is help out there. So I'm like many women today who we don't have our village of support around us. Back in the day, we used to have our mom or our aunt. Like, we used to have extended family around us. And we would lived in small communities where people knew, like, everyone kind of stepped in to help. And we don't have that anymore, right? We're away from that village of support. We're in our individual houses and our neighborhoods, and we have friends, but they're as busy as we are. And it's a really difficult thing to navigate. So first, I sort of give up on having everything be perfect. My house is never as clean or as organized as I want it to be. But I've just sort of relinquished that. I'm like, right now is not a time in my life that's going to happen, and it's okay. Like, I will make good food. Like, I'll make sure the kids are eating healthily, and they, we are reading, and we're like, there's things that you prioritize, right? And choose the things that you're going to actually put your energy towards, because we only have a certain amount of energy. Try to get basic things off my plate, right? Whether it's having my kids do it or finding a hired resource or whatever. That's a big part, is realizing to ask for help, and it's okay. That's a big part of it. And having honest communication with my kids. I mean, they're older, right? So they're 15 and 10 now. So I can have an honest communication. Like, when I'm in Techstars right now, I'm like, listen, I'm not going to be around like I have been. You guys are going to have to go in and get some of the frozen pot pies out of the freezer every once in a while and make yourself dinner. Unfortunately, my kids are old enough to do that. It's harder when they're really little, but.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought up the fact that you're going to have to accept that not everything's going to be perfect.
Yeah.
Because that's such a big part of entrepreneurship. I think that so many times I know that I do. I'll sometimes wait. I'm like, oh no, it's not perfect. I can't launch this, or I can't send this out, or we can't post this because it's not perfect.
Yes.
But then it doesn't even get done. And
it does. And
that's no good.
And that's less than perfect.
Right. Exactly. The opposite.
One of the mentors in the Techstars program, he had a workshop with us. He's like, you've got to have like just such a sense of urgency. Yeah. You just got to go and just throw stuff against the wall. And when it doesn't work, move on. Like, and it's okay. And that's where that sense of failure comes in that I was talking about. Like, it's okay if it doesn't work. That doesn't mean anything. Right. It just means that didn't work, and that gives you one step closer to the solution that will work.
Exactly. Now, in the mornings, I like to listen to motivational speakers and life coaches and things as I'm getting ready for work. I listen to Brendon Burchard and Mel Robbins. Do you have anybody that you look up to or you listen to? Or
I've got several different podcasts. During the pandemic, I was listening to Brooke Castillo. She's like a life coach. A lot of her work was like really adjusting your brain, your thoughts. So that was really helpful for me in a lot of different ways, because the pandemic was insane and crazy, and I needed help above and beyond my business. Now I do a lot more. I listen to a lot more like business related things. Actually, a friend of mine, Stephanie Diaz, she has a wonderful podcast called She Conquers Capital. And it's great. She does interviews with women that are in capital, and whether they're VCs or people that are raising capital. So that's been really good to like kind of touch base and listen to that. And there's a couple of like, Brene Brown is always amazing. She's great. Yeah. I think that's helpful. I try to listen to music a lot too. Yeah. Because that kind of helps me relax and get my brain off, because sometimes I need to turn my brain off from thinking.
I do too. That helps with not getting too burnt out. Yeah. I know that sometimes I hit a wall at night and like I know I need to do this, this, and this, but if I continue, I'm not going to be any good for anything later or tomorrow. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. You've gotta. I mean, self-care, right? Yeah. It's like whatever. Right. Everyone knows we should do self-care, but it's like, how do you do even it? That, adds to the, okay, I have so much to do, including taking care of myself, and it can be so overwhelming. So besides, listening to music and listening to other people, is there anything that you do to help when you're overwhelmed? Yeah. My thing is I need to like talk with people and connect with people. So I've got like my core group of support that I'm talked to all the time. Like a bunch of the women that I've gone through a lot of these programs with, because they understand so much. So I find some of my really good friends, like my longer term good friends, they're there to like listen, but they just sometimes just don't get it, And it's like, how's it going? I'm like, oh my God, I can't even, I don't even know where to start. It's so far, there's so much. So that's a big part, talking to my family, like my mom and my sisters. That is really important, just to like process things. Yeah. So that is all important. And taking the time, my kids and I love to camp. So like we try to just get away and like be away from the phone, which is, I can't really do it. I'm constantly have to check it, because I'm running a business. But soon I'll have a team to support me more so than I do now. But doing things like that, getting out into nature and fresh air and away from the screen. Exactly. Now let's switch gears and talk a little bit more about the My Panda app. Now I assume that it's probably a lot of women that you have, as you call them, your pandas, the people that actually are doing the chores and things. Talk to us about where you are now and where you see My Panda app in 5 years. Yeah. So My Panda is a personal assistant next door app. So they're personal assistants that we hire and vet. They're contractors, but we screen them very, very carefully, interview them all, and we're really trying to find people who, they're not just gig workers, right? This isn't just Instacart, Uber, and My Panda, right? We want people that have run a household, can problem solve, that want to help. Between 90 and 95 of both of our users and our pandas are women. As you would expect, the sorts of women tend to do most of the things around the house, right? And we certainly have some guys that use us, and we have a couple male pandas that are great too. But the women helping women is a big part of our culture. That also adds to like a trust level, I think, in a lot of ways. And also, we hire our pandas, personal assistants next door, from within the hyperlocal community too. So
a lot of times there's like 2 or 3 degrees of separation, right?
Right.
And the pandas, they understand the best store to go to. They know what road to avoid during rush hour. So there are these little things that help support the local community. You know, you can go to the DeKalb Farmers Market runs is a huge request that we get because Instacart doesn't go there. There's no curbside pickup, but pandas can go and do that for you. And they shop there regularly, so they know how to get around there. If you've ever shopped there, you know that it's crazy. So anyway, so right now we are serving basically ITP, like sort of the Northeast quadrant. We've just sort of opened up like Stone Mountain, Tucker, Sandy Springs, over to like Smyrna and Vining. So those now we have a few pandas in each of those areas, so we feel we can give decent coverage. And we're doing a lot of updates in our app right now. I'm working with my development team on that. We've got a lot of like strategy things that we're reworking, our go-to-market, the whole marketing thing that we're bringing on. So there's a lot of things that are happening like right now that I'm looking towards being towards the end of the year, being able to really be a lot more intensely saturated within Atlanta. And then we're looking to start opening up a couple other key markets in the Southeast going into 2023. And we'll probably be in 2 new markets in 2023, and then we're looking to expand beyond that.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
You'll be all over the country.
That's what I'm hoping.
Exactly. For those of you that would like to hear more about the My Panda app, please go to mypandaapp.com. If you want to be a panda yourself or if you need help, that's where you go. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was fun.
This is the Female Founder Show with host and entrepreneur Bridget Fitzpatrick, exclusively on ASBN. If you're a female founder in the Atlanta market and would like to help other female founders with your inspiring story, we would love to hear from you.
This has been a JBF Business Media production.